Good evening. Welcome to QUT Web News.
Good evening.
State and territory leaders will hold an urgent crisis meeting on Sunday in the wake of this week's federal budget. They're furious that Canberra slashed $80 billion from state health and education funding. And welfare groups say the number of families in crisis is increasing, and the latest budget cuts will only make the situation worse.
This is the reality of people doing it tough. Hundreds came here to the Tribe of Judah Care Service this morning at Slacks Creek. They are seeking urgent free welfare assistance. Since the budget was handed down, this organisation has been struggling to cope with demand.
Oh, it's hugely impacting us because people get in. I think what happens every time a budget comes, especially this one, people get in fear. And so we've had our phones run off the hook in the last couple of days.
Some of the people that rely on the free food service say they just wouldn't survive without it.
There's people living on, under 100,000 a year, like we're on under 40,000. So yeah, it's really tough.
We wouldn't be able to buy food. Seriously, we're barely struggling now. So I don't see how cutting everything's going to make things better.
Queensland's Minister for Health, Lawrence Springborg, is worried the cuts will hit Queensland's health system hard.
And the more that we can improve in these areas, the more lives we save and the bigger difference we actually make to people's quality of life.
An angry Premier Campbell Newman is ready to take on the Prime Minister.
I want to stress, we want to sort this out. And I said that to the Prime Minister.
Sunday's crisis meeting will be critical, with the states looking to argue against the cuts, claiming Canberra have forced them to raise the GST to cover the shortfalls. Kobe Bartels, QUT News.
But Federal Treasurer Joe Hockey has hit out at critics of his new medical co-payments, saying people should cut back on their personal vices instead. That provoked an angry response from the opposition leader, who labelled Mr Hockey as completely out of touch with ordinary Australians.
Mr Hockey says it's time for all Australians to act in the national interest and contribute to a better Australia with less debt.
Is a parent really going to deny their sick child a visit to the doctor, which would be the equivalent payment of a couple of beers or 1/3 of a packet of cigarettes?
He's calling on the opposition to show some courage in their reply and offer feasible alternatives.
Either Bill Shorten is going to try and help to fix it, or he is going to make it worse.
The 2% deficit levy to tax Australians who earn more than $180,000 will affect over 400,000 people.
He lied and he lied and he lied. He said that there'll be no new tax increases. Deficit levy. What weasel words.
The opposition leader will deliver his budget reply in Parliament tonight. Bill Shorten says his reply speech will articulate what Labor stands for and highlight the policy differences between the opposition and the government. Mitchell Van Homrey, QUT News.
Former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd has accepted responsibility for the tragedy caused by his government home insulation scheme. 4 men lost their lives working under the botched scheme. During his first full day at the Royal Commission witness box, Mr Rudd said his personal knowledge of the installation process was highly limited.
Today, families and their lawyers wanted answers from Mr Rudd.
What changes ought to be made, and more importantly, does he accept that the federal government should never again involve itself in this type of delivery of a program that killed young men?
And this morning, the Commonwealth granted Mr Rudd the opportunity to answer these hard questions. Prior to Mr Rudd taking the witness box, Martin Sweeney, father of one of the 4 installers killed, gave an emotional address to the Commission.
No family should ever have to go through what we've been through.
Mr Rudd began by telling the Commission that no safety concerns were brought to his attention throughout the rollout of the scheme.
Had any public servant, any minister, advised the Cabinet that there was a safety risk to either workers or to households, then I'm confident in saying the reaction of ministers would have been to say, whoa.
Rudd said training requirements appeared to be straightforward.
No particular skills were required. Secondly, a single day's training would be necessary. And thirdly, the training materials and courses already existed.
but Rudd said he ultimately feels responsible.
It remains my view is as Prime Minister you accept responsibility for the good and for the bad.
Whitney Angel, QUT News.
3 South Australian surfers have told of their lucky escape from a great white shark. But while they were left unscathed, one of their surfboards was left worse for wear.
The 3 surfers have described their close encounter with a shark while they paddled 2 kilometres off Elliston in South Australia. Andrew McLeod says the shark slammed into his board, launching him into the air.
Out of nowhere, a massive impact like a car crash came from underneath me.
Probably the most full-on situation I've seen with the sharks.
With the shark still circling, the trio huddled together and anxiously waited for the next big wave to shore. However, there was one casualty in the encounter. Mr. McLeod's surfboard bared the brunt of the attack.
I swam back over to my board and the pointer was still hanging around and I could see its tail fin. It was about 4 or 5 foot high.
All 3 agree it's a surfing trip they won't quickly forget. Rachel Rieger, QUT News.
Some of the world's top nutritionists are in Brisbane, and high on their agenda is making sure dietary information about the food we eat comes from a credible source. They're attending a conference hosted by the Dieticians Association of Australia.
More than 750 delegates are offering a smorgasbord of insight into the relationship between diet, health and culture. One of today's keynote speakers is concerned about maintaining a clear distinction between credible online material as opposed to misinformed or misleading information.
They can go to the DAA website, and if they see an accredited practicing dietitian, they will be able to then lead them to the authentic, well-credentialed information that is out there, because there's a lot more information out there for people to use than say 10 years ago.
The theme of the 3-day conference is "The Future is Now."
One of the challenges going forward with all the information technology is knowing what programs are actually best and worth using. This is where the Dieticians Association of Australia is taking an opportunity to break that down for people.
The message is to compare information on food labelling with credible online nutritional advice.
Industry professionals encourage Australians to get to know the products that they use. It is always important to seek out accurate information regarding food and nutrition.
A series of workshops over the weekend will provide plenty of food for thought about what we eat and why. Sushma Waller, QUT News.
Boite Theatre has announced a new artistic director and CEO. Chris Cohn says he's excited and has plenty of vision and passion for the Roundhouse Theatre.
The Boite Theatre Company has been in residence at the Roundhouse Theatre for years, and now with Chris Cohn at the helm, we'll soon see his vision come to life.
One thing that I'm really keen to explore is using the full theatre in the round a bit more frequently, just because I think it's such a powerful way to use this space.
He describes seeing a recent performance by Michael Bartlett as a lightbulb moment and says the space should be available to everyone.
I see it as a democratic space. I want everybody to be able to access it and to want to come.
Chris, a multi-award-winning director, says he also wants to see more cultural diversity and audience engagement at La Boite. It's been 10 years since La Boite moved into the Roundhouse Theatre, and now with Chris's vision, it will bring strong performances to a wider audience. He's been instrumental in introducing performers such as Niz Jubor in his one-man show, Mullah Nasruddin, in La Boite Indie Season.
Where are you going? He said, Your Majesty, I'm going to prison.
Niz Jubor is a really fascinating artist who's originally from Iraq.
Chris wants La Boite to foster and nurture other performers like Niz Jubor as part of their regular lineup. Anna Garcia, QUT News.
In AFL news, Collingwood is set to go against the Adelaide Crows tonight, and the Bombers will go head-to-head with an intimidating Sydney side.
The Bombers side is feeling the pressure as it gears up to take on a strong Swans side tomorrow night at Etihad Stadium. It's 9th on the ladder against team number 4. Lance Buddy Franklin appears to be the biggest threat to Essendon.
My impression is tall. Very tall. Dangerous.
Franklin has proven to be a destructive force, kicking an average of 5 goals per game in the last 10 matches against the Bombers. Essendon's coach says the Asada controversy plaguing the Bombers will not distract his players.
I don't think much has changed for them. We certainly not make a focus of it.
And tonight sees Collingwood take on the Crows at Adelaide Oval, where the home side hopes not to disappoint fans against a strong Collingwood side. Vanessa Wolfe, QUT News.
Time now for a look at the weather, and it was yet another lovely autumn day. Looking at the centres around the southeast today, Brisbane was partly cloudy. The Gold Coast reached a mild 21, the sunny coast was warmer, reaching 24, while Ipswich dropped to 10 overnight. Around the nation tomorrow, and Sydney will have a nice sunny day. Morning frost for Canberra, clear skies expected for Melbourne. Hobart will see rain at times. 25 the top for Adelaide. Perth could see showers, and Darwin will reach a warm 33. The forecast for Queensland, and sun for Mount Isa, 30 the max. Cairns and Townsville will see isolated showers. Possible showers for Mackay, Rocky and Bundaberg both heading for tops of 26. And Longreach will reach a warm 30. The 3-day lookout for Brisbane. Tomorrow, a max of 24 is expected. Showers easing on Saturday, and slightly warmer on Sunday, 25 the top. That brings you up to date with the weather.
And that's all the news we have for now.
We'll be back tomorrow with more QUT news. Goodbye.
Goodbye.